Oh, it's good to know that you're here, okay. Excellent. Thank you both for joining. I'll start slowly just in case anyone joins. So welcome to the Introduction to Excel course with me. And I've been working for as a VA for about 4 years. But before that, I used to teach Microsoft Office to an advanced level. So I was really excited when Hannah asked me to do this today, because it's really nice to be able to share my knowledge. And we've pitched this as an intro, but I'm aiming to cover lots of different tricks and tips, so hopefully you'll be able to pick something up. But do let me know if you've got any questions, and just either ask them or pop them in the chat, and I'll try and answer them as we go through, or otherwise I'll leave some time at the end. Okay, so just to go through the things that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to have a quick look at the screen layout. It's standard Microsoft Office, but just to run through the terminology to make sure that when I refer to things, you know what I'm talking about. And then navigating around the screen and selecting different ranges. Moving and copying and autofill. And there's some really handy things you can do with autofill. So just want to make sure that you all know how to do that. Then we're going to look at doing some calculations, including absolute cell references and functions. And this will all make sense by the end of the hour. And then formatting and printing. If we've got time, I've got a couple of other things I'd like to show you, but we'll see how we get on with time. And then obviously I'll make sure that we've got time for any questions at the end. Okay, brilliant. So let's go into Excel. And I'm just going to move this out of the way, if that's okay, so we can see the screen. Perfect. Okay, so here's a standard Microsoft Office screen. So just running through, at the top we've got the title bar, which has got the, oh, I've just realised that I haven't turned on the chat bit. Let me make sure so I can see you. Perfect. Okay, yeah, so this is my standard title bar, and it just tells you that we're using current workbook 1 and we're in Excel. Got your minimize and maximize as usual, and then all your standard buttons there. And then we've got the menu bar, and allows you to access all the different options. These are your well, Microsoft calls them a ribbon, and you can always get rid of that if you need to clear any more space. And as soon as you click on anything, it just pops back up again, and you can then pin it back to the top of your screen. And you've got all your different buttons here. So if you point to anything, a little tooltip pops up just to let you know what that button does for you. And at the end of each of these little sections, there's the little arrow that allows you to open up a dialog box. So if anyone's been using Microsoft Office for years, then you'll see the standard older dialog boxes that we used to use to be able to access lots of different options as well. So that's all available that way. And then we come down and we've got the bits that are a bit more just Excel-y. So this bar here is your formula bar, and the formula bar allows us to see what's actually happening, like the different calculations that you've got in your workbook. This is your cell reference, which we're going to have a look at in a moment. And then we've got our actual workbook, and we've got our columns that go down the page and rows that go across the page. And just as you would with like an old-fashioned map, each of these boxes has a different reference depending on the column and then the row. So this would be K4, and over here we can see that updated in this name box here. So it's really handy wherever you are in the worksheet, the relevant column and row is highlighted, and then the cell reference updates here as well. So these, we've got our columns going down the page, rows going across, and then these boxes are called cells, which is C-E-L-L rather than S-A-L-E-S, which I always, when I was teaching, that always used to confuse people. But yeah, these are your cells, and you just move around the screen like that. And then as you're coming down, we've got the different workbooks. Oops, sorry, we've got the different workbooks and different worksheets rather. So in a book, you can have lots of different sheets, and you can just click onto here to create a new sheet. And if you want to change the name of anything, you just double click and you can change the name and then tap enter, and that renames it. So you can have lots and lots of different sheets along here, which can be really handy because generally you might be wanting to work with lots of different different sheets within the same workbook. For example, if you wanted to have a different month on each sheet and then have them all for the whole year. And then the bar down here, let me just move this out of the way. This bar down here is your status bar, and this can be really, really handy. At the moment, it just shows that we're ready to start and you can change the view. But down here, you'll get little other things that pop up as we're going through the session. So I'll point those out to you as well because it can be quite handy. So that's the screen. If there's anything at all that doesn't make sense, just shout out and we'll make sure that you can see what you need. Oops. Okay, fantastic. Right, okay. So moving around the screen, you've got, as I'm moving my mouse around, you can see that we've got this big this big white cross. And if I click anywhere, then that moves my cell highlighter for me. So that's one way of moving around. You can use your arrow keys on your keyboard and they will move you a cell at a time. If you hold down your control key on your keyboard, oh, brilliant. If you hold down your control key on your keyboard, then that will jump you to the, if you hold down your control key and tap your left or right arrow, that will jump you to the beginning and end of the row. So that's a really handy way of jumping around. And the control and up and down arrow will move you to the top and bottom of the column, which again is really, really handy. And they're quite standard Microsoft. So generally you can jump around using control and your arrow keys. And another handy thing is that wherever you are in your spreadsheet, if you do control and home, that always jumps you straight to A1. So just tap control and home on the keyboard, and again that's standard Microsoft Office. Any product you're using, if it's Word, anywhere at all, you can just do control and home and it will take you straight to the beginning of that document. Okay, and when we're selecting different areas, you can just click and drag to select different cells, which are really handy. As you probably know, when you're in Microsoft, if you want to, for example, make something bold or change the color, then you always have to highlight it first. So just clicking and dragging will allow you to highlight an area of the spreadsheet. If you click at the column heading, that will select the whole column. And if you're using tables in Word, you'll know that that's very standard. And if you click on a row number, then that selects the whole row for you as well. Just up here between the A and the 1, you've got the button just there, and that allows you to select the entire worksheet. Click anywhere in there. And again, if you wanted to use the keyboard select anything, then where we've used our arrow keys to move around the spreadsheet, if you hold down Shift, that will allow you to select as you're moving around. So that's quite handy. And because we know that you can use the control key to jump around, you can use control and shift as well to start highlighting whole areas as well. And I'm just going to go back to the beginning. And just as this button will allow you to select the whole worksheet, if you do control and A, that selects the entire worksheet as well. And again, standard Microsoft Office, control and A always selects everything. In Word, it will select an entire document, and in PowerPoint selects an entire presentation. Okay, so is everyone okay with that so far?
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Excellent. It's really bizarre when there's no one in front of you. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just go straight on to editing and moving through actually using Excel. Fabulous. Okay, so wherever you position is where the text that you type will appear. So if I go into A1 and type anything in there, and we can see that that's in that cell there. So I can see in A1 I've got Introduction to Excel, and actually up in my formula bar as well, I've got that text there. Now it looks on the spreadsheet as though the text goes into these two boxes too, but if I click into B1, I can see that as far as Excel is concerned, that is actually empty. So if I type in there, then it's cut off that text in the spreadsheet, but as far as Excel is concerned, it's still there. And it's just something to be really aware of. If you are using a spreadsheet, if I was to print this out, then that was how it would print. So it would look like some of the text was missing. So just be really aware with your spreadsheets to make sure that the text is actually displayed correctly and that nothing's been cut off, because it can obviously be quite confusing if something's printed with some of the text missing. And we can just change the column by dragging the column in between the two column headings. You've got the double headed arrow and you can just drag with that, or if you double click, that will automatically fit the widest entry. And if I wanted to move anything around, then again, it's very standard Microsoft. You can just click onto it, click onto cut, position where you want the information to go, and then paste it there. And if I want to copy, just click onto it, select it, click onto the copy, click where you want it to go, and then paste it in there. And then we've got the copy as well. Or I can, if I want to move it, the other thing I can do, so we've already looked at how we've got this big white cross, but if you point to the edge of the cell, then it changes into this kind of four-headed arrow. And with that means you can move it around. So you just point to the edge and then you can drag those contents to wherever you want them to go. And if you hold down your control key while you're pointing to that allows you to copy it. You get the little plus sign and then you can copy that as many times as you want to as well. Okay, so that's moving and copying and entering text. I'm just going to select all of that. Oops, and tap delete to get rid of it. Perfect. Okay, so hopefully that's not going too fast. I'm trying not to spend too long on the intro bits, because I appreciate that some of you may have been using Excel and Microsoft for quite a long time. So just let me know if it's if I'm going too fast and you're missing anything. Otherwise, I'll just keep going through. And let's have a look at. So we've had a quick look at the screen layout, have a look at navigating and moving around the ranges, and then had a look at moving and copying. And now we're going to start looking at actually doing calculations and the good things that Excel are there for. Okay, so I'm going to bring up a spreadsheet rather than you having to watch me typing as we're going through. I did have this on a separate slide and I thought it might be handier to actually have it here so that you can refer to it as we're going through. So I've just popped that over there. But the thing with all formulas is they always start with an equals. Anytime you type equals into a cell, then Excel knows we're going to start doing the calculations, so it gets ready. And then we've got the mathematical symbols here, plus, minus, the asterisk for multiply and the slash for divide. And then the formula ends when you actually tap enter or click the little tick. So at the moment, I've got my product here, all the different fruits that I'm selling. We've got the price of each of those and then the amount that we've sold. And then we can get our profit. So if I wanted to put in the calculation there, that would be the unit price multiplied by the amount that we've sold. So start with an equals, and then that would be 0.5, oops, excuse me, 0.5 multiplied by the 10, which is great. So it's done the calculation for me, which is brilliant. But Excel is more than just a calculator, and the way that I've put that in now means that even though it's given me the calculation, if anything changes, if we actually find out that we've entered that wrongly and we had 50 units sold, then the profit doesn't update. And the whole point of Excel is it's supposed to be really, really helpful. So actually, the thing to remember with formulas is the most important part is always use cell references, because then if anything changes, it will automatically update for you. So I'm going to start with an equals, and I could type in that this cell reference is B2, but I'm going to just click on there to select it, put in the asterisk, click onto the unit sold, and then click on the tick. And now it's put a calculation in there, but if anything changes, I'll change that to something really big, then this automatically changes as well. Okay, so every formula, you always start with an equals, click onto the relevant cell, pop in the relevant symbol, and then just keep going as many times as you need to, and then click on the tick to confirm that it's done. So that's really handy. And I can copy that down by doing the clicking onto it and then clicking onto copy and then going through and pasting it, just as we've done before. But actually Excel offers you even quicker ways to copy. So I'm just going to delete those out. If I go back up to the first one, the only thing we haven't spoken about yet to do with the cell is this little box down at the corner of the cell, and that's called your cell handle, and when you point to it you get the thin black cross, and this is a really handy copying tool. So instead of having to copy and paste it, I can just copy that down, and Excel automatically knows to copy it, and it's copied down each of those so that we've got the cell references updating on each of those, and so the calculation updates, and if I change anything then everything automatically updates for you, which is really, really handy. Just show you another thing as well, because that's really great, because I've only had to copy down for like 3 more entries, but sometimes you get really long workbooks, and I find sometimes when I'm dragging down with this cell handle, if I go past the bottom of the page, it tends to fly off a little bit. So what you can do, if I delete those, is if you've got a calculation you want to copy and you point to the cell handle, as soon as you've got that thin black cross, instead of clicking and dragging, if you double click, it automatically populates. It copies down until it finds a gap. So that's really good if you've got a very long spreadsheet and you just want to quickly copy a formula down. That only copies down, unfortunately, not across, but it is really, really handy one to be aware of. The other thing about this cell handle is that it actually does lots of other things as well. So I'm just going to move these tips out of the way, or actually I'll do it down here. Okay, so if you want to type in, for example, the days of the week as part of your spreadsheet, so if you're going to type in Monday and then you want to put in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, rather than having to type them all, if you point to the cell handle and then click and drag that down, then it automatically knows that we want to put in different days of the week. So it pops that in for you. And you can start that from anywhere. So I can do Wednesday, copy that down, and it just automatically knows that it's days of the week. The thing that also is handy, if you don't want to have all the days in, as you're copying it down, you'll notice this little button pops up. And if you click on the drop down arrow, you get more options. So you can say, actually, I only want the weekdays, and then it just removes the Saturday and Sundays for you. So that can be really handy if you're trying to populate the spreadsheet. That also works for months. And it works for dates. So if I put in today's date, and then copy that down, then it automatically populates it. Again, you get the option to say, can you only give me the weekdays? And then that leaves out the weekends. Or actually, can you just update the months so it remembers it's the 20th, and if it needs for any reason to be annual, you can just actually only the year. So that can be really handy depending on what you're trying to do with your spreadsheet. If I was to type in a number, for example, the number 2, and copy that down, then it knows that I just want the number 2, which is fine. But it might be that actually you need to increase that by increments. So if I just give Excel an example of what I want it to increase by, so this one I'm just asking it to increase by 2, then when I copy it down, it looks back and sees there's a pattern and follows the pattern as well. So that can be really handy depending on what sort of spreadsheets you're putting together. And that also works with text. So I can't think of an example, but if you're, let me think, you might have different locations. And you want to just duplicate that. Then again, because it sees that there's a pattern, it just goes through and starts populating with that pattern as well. So hopefully that's a bit handy. You might already know all about those, but that autofill can be really, really useful. Is everyone still okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Brilliant. Okay, so that's with the copying. So we've had a look at some formulas. Let's ramp it up a little bit now. Has anyone already used absolute cell references? No?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll explain what those are and we'll have a look at that. So with this calculation up here, we know that Excel has gone to B2 and multiplied it by C2. And that's obviously exactly what we wanted to do. But Excel doesn't really know what the cells are called. All it knows is that it goes 2 to the left and multiplies it by 1 to the left. So when we come down, all it does is just go, right, okay, 2 to the left, multiply it by 1 to the left. And that's how it works it out. And it's called relative cell references, which is normally all you need it to do. But there might be, let me bring up another spreadsheet. So in this particular spreadsheet, I've got my names of all the people that work on the team, the hours that they're working, and the hourly rate. So if I go and put in the calculation, type in equals, multiply the number of hours by the hourly rate to find out how much money they've earned. Again, if I change any of those, then it automatically updates my calculation because I've used cell references. Now, if I copy that down, and I'm going to double click to quickly copy it down, and it all looks a bit bizarre because what Excel's doing is it's saying, okay, go 1 to the left and multiply it by 3 up and 1 to the left. So when I go down, when I copy it down, it again goes 1 to the left and then multiply it by 3 up and 1 to the left, which in this case is actually 0. And again, 1 to the left, B7, multiply that by 3 up and 1 to the left, which now is a text field, which is why we've got this error message. So actually what we want it to do, I'm going to just delete those, instead of, we want it to copy down and update this cell reference, but to fix this one. And this is what we call absolute cell references. So it still equals that one and then multiply it by the hourly rate. But actually what I want to do is fix it. So the dollar sign is our way of telling Excel to fix it. So if I put $B, that means fix it in column B, and then $2 and fix it in row 2. So when I tick that through and copy that down, then it knows to update this cell, but to leave that one as B2 because that's the one that we fixed. So now if the hourly rate changes, it automatically updates everyone's pay for us. Now you can type in the dollar signs, or you can tap F4 on your keyboard, and that again will toggle you through. If you tap F4, then it toggles through, putting the dollar sign on the row and on the column, so fixing both of those. And then when you tap it again, it goes, okay, let's just fix the row, let's just fix the column, and then just goes back to normal again. So that's F4 to be able to put your absolute cell references in. Excellent. Okay, so we've had a look at cell references. So we've had a look at doing formulas. We've had a look at the absolute cell references to fix them. I'm going to move on to functions. Let me know if anyone needs me to go through anything again. Now, with our functions, I'm just going to bring up another spreadsheet for us to look at. Okay, so let's move this out of the way. Again, I just thought it would be easier than keep coming up and down through different slides. So if I want to, got our spreadsheet cells here, t-shirt cells here, and we've got all the days of the week and the different sizes. And if I wanted to get a total for each of those days, then the way that we've looked at it so far, I'd start with an equals, and then I'd say Monday plus Tuesday plus Wednesday plus Thursday plus Friday plus Saturday. And then I'd click on the tick, which is brilliant and it works really well. But the only thing is, when you're starting to do calculations like this with quite a few cells, then that's quite a lot to remember. Now, Excel's really handy because it does highlight each of those cells for us to be able to double check we've included everything. But that's just going to take quite a long time, especially if there was quite a few different, if I put in all the months, for example, so that would be 12 different cells I'd need to click on. So what you can do is use a function, and all functions will always take the same format. So just as all formulas will start with an equals, all functions will start with an equals. And then you put in the function name. So if I want to add everything up, it's sum. And then you put in the brackets and then you pop in the range. So you don't have to type them in, you can just select it, close the bracket, tick it through, and it automatically knows that that's now going to add everything up. So functions are really, really handy. And again, I can just double click that to copy it down. Now, because functions are so handy, Excel also gives you lots of different ways of putting them in. So we've got up here an auto sum button, which just shows you it's going to do the sum. So if I click on there, that automatically puts in the sum for me and selects the relevant range, which is great. So I can just click on the tick and that copies it through. Just one thing to be aware of though, is that if you use this button, it tends to look for the easiest option. So it's thought, okay, there's all of these, but actually there's only 2 up here. So I might just see if those are the ones you want me to add up. So if that ever happens, just be aware of it and then just go and select the relevant ones that you want to copy. And then you can put that in there for you. Okay, so let's copy that down. So again, we've got the auto sum button, just click on there and it does the sum for you. So I'll just copy that across and pop that in there. Brilliant. So that's added everything up. There may be occasions where you want to know the total, but you don't necessarily want it in the spreadsheet. So just so you know, if you've got anything highlighted, then down here, I'll just move this a little bit. Down here in the status bar, it automatically calculates for you. So in the status bar, I can see that I've highlighted these cells and that gives me a total of 3,287, which we know is correct anyway. And it also gives me the average and tells me how many numbers I've actually selected as well. So that can be quite handy, just to be aware that you can see that information in the status bar if you ever need to. There's quite a few other functions that have been quite useful. And if you click on the drop down arrow next to that auto sum button, then it gives you the ones that are most frequently used. So I can use the average. And again, it selects the ones that you think. So always just double check what range it's looking at and then make sure that you highlight the correct range. And I can copy that across. And I can do that for all of these. So we've got, for example, max. Copy that across as well. So this is really handy, and you'll probably find that you generally just use this button here. You can use the more functions option here, but you've also got this button here because Excel likes to offer lots of different ways. So in this button, then it comes up and it gives you the ones that most frequently use, but it also allows you to select lots of different functions as well. So if you are using quite a few calculations in your spreadsheet, you can go and look up a particular function that you need, and all of them are on here and they all give an example. If you click on anything, it tells you exactly what it is that that particular one does. So you can get access to lots of different functions. And if functions and being able to do lots of calculations is something that you are quite keen on being able to do more of, then if you let us know, maybe we could put something together that specifically looks at functions for you. Brilliant. Okay, so those are those functions. We've looked at the count option. So when you can, sorry. Okay, so we know we've got the count numbers. So that will then go through and just count how many entries you've got, which can be, again, we're on a very small spreadsheet here, but if you had quite a few different entries, then it's a nice way of just checking that you've actually got, for example, how many people are actually on this list. Now that doesn't count text entries. So I just thought I'd show you, because I use this one quite a lot, is that if you are going to be counting text entries, then if you put an A there, so count A allows you to count the text entries, so that can be quite handy as well. And if I remove anything, it automatically updates it for me. So those are some functions that are quite useful. Another function which I use quite a lot that you might find useful is the if statement, because what the if statement does is it takes it to the next level and it allows you to compare figures. So if, for example, I wanted the spreadsheet to be able to tell me if that is greater than that, then to give me an answer. So if the sales for extra small t-shirts on Monday is greater than on Tuesday is greater than Monday, then say yes, otherwise say no. So it starts with equals, if, and the format of this one, as soon as you start typing in Excel, pops up and goes, oh, right, this is how it should look. So what's my test, comma, what the value is if it's true, comma, what the value is if it's false. So if Tuesday sales are greater than Monday sales, comma, then say yes, comma, no. So you have to put the text into brackets so that it knows it's going to just show that text rather than do a calculation. And if I click on the tick, not greater at the moment, but if I change that, then it automatically updates for me. So there's loads of functionality with Excel, and trying to pitch this at the right level is tricky, obviously not knowing what you all currently use Excel for, but I just wanted to give you an example of some of the functions that I've used that can be really helpful. Okay. Everyone okay so far?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've looked at the screen layout, moving around, moving, copying, and using the autofill function, simple calculations and using absolute cell references, and had a look at some functions as well, max, minimum, sum, average, and that if statement, which is quite useful. We're going to have a look at formatting and printing, and if we've got time, I'll just show you a couple of other bits that might be quite helpful, and we'll make sure we've got some time for any Q&A. Okay, so this particular spreadsheet, oops, sorry, let me move this down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I'm guessing that most of you use Excel, Microsoft quite a lot, so you're quite used to formatting, and it's exactly the same in Excel. Anything that you want to format, you just select it, and then you've got your formatting toolbars up here that allow you to change the alignment, change the text, change the color, anything at all that you need to do, you can just go through and change there. If there's anything in particular that anyone's tried to do and hasn't been able to, let me know and I'll make sure that I cover it here so that you know how to do everything you need to. Another thing that's quite handy is this heading, for example, to be able to have it across the whole spreadsheet. Then if I select where I'd like that to be centered across, then we've got the merge and center option, and that just automatically makes that into one big cell and puts that in the middle, which is quite nice for headings of spreadsheets. Let's put that back to automatic. The other thing you can do is you can actually ask Excel to put on an automatic format. So if you'd like any of these ones, you can ask it to just pop those on for you, and I want it to go on all of that. So I just select the range and then it puts it on for me. Because I already had some formats on there, it's kept the formats I already had and added in the extra ones if I want it to. Excuse me. I was going to take that back. There's all the different formatting options up here. If I wanted to change these and say that they are currency, then I can just go through and select the currency from there, and it automatically populates it for me. So I'm sure that all of you are able to just go through and have a look at that. But again, let me know if there's anything in particular you've been trying to do and haven't been able to format. If I want to print this out, then I'll just go into print preview, and you can see that it automatically just brings it through. But you might want to change the way that it's printed. So just have a look at the page setup. So I'm going to change that to landscape. And although it's not so relevant on this particular spreadsheet, it's really handy to know that you can fit everything to one page. With very large spreadsheets, it tends to put it over onto multiple pages, but you can say, actually, just pop it all onto one page for me. And then when I click on OK, it automatically pops that through and fits it all onto one page. Now I've got this area over here that I don't really want in my printout, so I'm just going to go back and say, actually, this is all I want to print. So when I go into print, I can say, just show the selection, and it automatically updates for me. Handy things that you can do with Excel are saying, can you just pop this onto the center of the page, which can look quite neat for printout. So center it horizontally and center it vertically so it appears in the middle of the page. You can also add headers and footers, and Excel's really good at offering the headers and footers that it thinks you're most likely to use, and you can just select any of those and it automatically will put them on for you. But if you want to customize anything, then you just go to the custom option, and all of these are just like fields, which means that where it says at file, that means that as you save the file under a different name, it knows to automatically update it. So it can be really handy if you're sharing information so that people know what the file's called. If they want to be able to go and find it, you can put in the sheet name, you can put in the path as well, so that it will know to save the path that this is saved into. And that again can be handy if you're sharing it and other people need to be able to access that information as well. You can put in the date, the time that it was actually printed. So those can be quite handy to be aware of. And the final thing I'd like to show you is that this at the moment doesn't have the grid lines on there, but if you've got a very large spreadsheet, you don't want to have to put the grid lines on separately or borders, then it automatically will pop the grid lines on for you. And you can also print it in black and white, which can be handy if you're not printing onto a colour printer. And if for any reason you need to put the row and column headings in, then you can pop those in. Again, it all depends what you're using it for, but they can be really handy if you're referring to cell references, then you know that the printout will have everything available to you. Okay, so that's a little quick overview of printing and formatting. We've got a little bit of time. If anyone's got any questions at the moment, there's nothing coming up in the chat. Has anyone got anything else that they wanted to ask? Everyone okay? No? That's great. Okay, I'll show you a couple more things and then see if there's any questions from that. I was thinking that other things that would be quite useful is if you're working with quite large worksheets or with charts. So I'll just show you another spreadsheet. This isn't a very big spreadsheet, but it's just got a little bit more information on there. So in this particular spreadsheet, we've got a list of names and some courses, the dates, the location, and whether or not they've paid. If I want to be able to sort that in any order, then in the data option, you've got all of the different tools that you might want to use for large worksheets. So if you click into any of the columns, and then you can sort it alphabetically from A to Z, or you can sort it alphabetically in descending order. But the good thing is if you click on the sort button, then you get loads of options. So it automatically knows that my data has got headers, but if it didn't, then I'd just untick that. And then I can say, actually, can you sort by name? And A to Z. And then I can add a level and say, and then, actually it's probably not the best, let me sort by course and then also sort by location. And then it goes through, sorts by course, and then puts all my locations together as well. So the sort option is very handy. The other thing that can be really good is to be able to filter on information. And Excel has the option for an auto filter. So if you click on this filter button, it pops in these little arrows, which allows you to filter each of these columns. So if I wanted to only see the courses that were running in Brighton, then if I tick that, it automatically just filters out all the others. And if I only want to see those people that haven't paid for their training, then I can filter it even further. The auto filters are really handy. I've used those loads, so I'm not sure if you're probably already using those, but I just wanted to make sure if you weren't, that you can access those. And you can click onto them to say, clear the filter, and then you'll have everything again. So I want to just see those that are on Excel and Word. And I can select multiple options too. And then you can just click on that to be able to turn the filter back off and have your spreadsheet again. So that can be quite handy. And I'm sure that you're probably all using charts. But I've got a little spreadsheet here that's just got the months and the people and how many sales they've got for the month. And if I want to be able to create a chart out of it, I can just select the information and then go into insert. And there's all the different charts that I could put together. So if I wanted to put that into a column chart and I wanted it to be 3D, as soon as I select it, it automatically populates it for me. I've selected my range correctly and get rid of that. There we go. Excellent. Okay, so I can pop in the title. And it's automatically put everything in for me, but you can customize anything you want. So if you wanted to change the color, then you can just double click and you can choose the color if you think, actually, I want that to be in a slightly different color. And it automatically updates it for you. You can change the column to any of these different, so you can change them. You can basically do whatever you want with charts, and it's quite easy to sit and play with them for quite a while. If you want to move anything around, if you want that legend to go somewhere else, then you can just say, actually, I want it to be at the top or I want it to be on the right, and you can move anything around there as well. Anything at all you want to change, you can just click onto it and then make any changes that you need to, colours or anything like that. If you want to change the different dashes, if you want to add in other increments, if you want to change how much is incremented by, anything at all you want to change, you can just click onto it and make the relevant changes. If you wanted to change it to a completely different layout, then you can change that as well. So you can come into here and choose any different charts that you want to, and it will automatically update it for you. Okay. So we've had a run through the screen layout and selecting ranges. We've looked at moving, copying and the autofill function. We've looked at calculations and absolute cell references and functions. We've looked at formatting and printing and a couple of other things. We've got time left for any questions. So I just wanted to see if there's anything in particular that anyone would like to look at, because I'll make sure that I cover it now, or if there's anything that didn't make sense or anything you want me to go back over. Again, I'm not sure what your levels already is with Excel, and if I've just covered a whole load of things that you've already know, then just let me know if there's anything you've been trying to do but haven't been able to, and I'll make sure that I'm answer that for you. You can feel free to type it in or unmute and talk if you want to. No, is everyone okay?
I'm quite happy, thank you.
Thank you for talking to me. I just wondered, is there anything there that was new, or is everything that you already knew?
I
Did
think you've highlighted a lot of controls that I didn't know were there, and a lot of changes you can make to the existing data, which I didn't realise were necessary with a few clicks. I tend to do a lot of my changes by typing things in by hand, and obviously that's not really useful when you've got to do large scale. So it's good to know that it can be sort of manipulated